There is a high prevalence of burnout in our culture, and it's caused by our cultural ideals paired with our individual adverse childhood experiences that often cause us to find worthiness only in our productivity. Burnout's a symptom of our internal stress reactions that deplete our energy, leaving us feeling exhausted, ineffective, and cynical. In this NeuroNugget, we're going to share with you some novel and effective tools to divert you off the path of burnout and empower you into the flow of meaning of life while performing at your highest potential. All right, so I said there's 3 keys to burnout. Burnout is that feeling of exhaustion that you have even after you've had a good night's sleep. It's that feeling of ineffectiveness that comes when you've been working your tail end off and you don't feel like you have anything to show for it. When you feel like you're taking 2 steps forwards and 3 steps back, and the cynicism that develops when you feel like nobody cares, it doesn't matter, and why are you working so hard when the system is already rigged against you? If you're having any of those feelings, then you may be experiencing burnout or be on the path to burnout. I encourage you to get your burnout score. We're going to share a link with you at some point so you can find out, like, how far down the burnout path are you and what is it going to take for you to turn it around, find fulfillment, plug some of those energy leaks, and be excited about what's coming up in your life. All right, so there are 3 common causes of burnout that I see in my practice. The first one is the cultural expectation of this constant increase in productivity that's coupled with a work ethic to match that. We all are familiar with that particular cultural expectation. The second is our individual perfectionism. This is setting a high bar for ourselves, trying to always be better. And then if we meet our goals, we just move on to the next one without even a notice or acknowledgement of the success that we've had. And if we don't meet our goals, there's a huge focus, if you're a perfectionist, on the gap. And that causes a lot of stress. So that individual perfectionism, this desire and compulsion to be perfect, to meet that bar without that celebration of accomplishment, without the good enough, that also drives us to burnout. And the third one is that our self-worth is based on productivity, on usefulness. Our beliefs about our worthiness, they get set up before we even know it, and they're in response to adverse childhood experiences. So some examples of self-limiting beliefs about worthiness that lead to burnout are things like, I'm only worthy of love if I am useful. As if love and usefulness actually have something to do with one another. They actually don't. I am only worthy if I am productive. I will be more valuable if I work more hours. Now, while there is a little bit of truth to that, it plateaus at some point. At some point, you work so many hours that your productivity actually decreases and doesn't increase. It's because we have limits as human beings to what we're able to accomplish. And when we start to exceed that limit, we start becoming stressed. The more stressed we become, the less cognitive function we have and the less productive we actually are. And then when you are a perfectionist and you can begin to spiral because you start seeing gaps, mistakes, breaks in your productivity, a decrease, a decline, because you're starting to get exhausted, because you're trying to push yourself through to create more hours, to create more productivity. With the little bit of resources that you have, your resources get depleted. Your energetic resources get depleted, your emotional resources get depleted, and you're well on your way to burnout. All right, so what are the solutions? Well, the simplest solution to burnout is to get into the flow. And there's 3 aspects of getting in the flow that I really want to talk about. And the aspects of getting into the flow are almost more important than the definition of flow. But the definition of flow is that mind state, the body state of just intense focus. Intense but easy focus, not a stressed focus, but it's like you lose track of time because you're so incredibly engaged in whatever it is you're doing. So the things that give you this feeling of being in the flow, this easy but intense engagement, include mastery. And mastery could be about anything. It doesn't have to be about something really important. In fact, during the pandemic, there was a group of people who decided that they could create a world record about how many M&Ms one could stack on top of one another. And so somebody created a world record, and then other people, of course, decided that they thought they could beat that world record. Well, the world record, I think, was 4 or 5. And so teams of people would get together and stack M&Ms until they got the mastery to be able to stack 4 or 5 M&Ms together. It doesn't sound like very much, but let me tell you, it felt to these people engaging in that activity like a competition. And when they were able to succeed, they felt like winning the Super Bowl. So that mastery was enough to have them fully engaged and in the flow, no matter how silly it might have been. And the second aspect of being in the flow is meaning. And you might say, well, what is the meaning in stacking M&Ms? But the meaning really was about competition, about engaging in a community, enjoying something that somebody else was enjoying, being seen, to having your mastery seen. That was the meaning. It was a meaning of significance and engagement with the community. And really also, I think that the meaning was to have fun. And so that was the meaning in that case. And so meaning can be anything. It can be something small and it can be something big. But if you don't have meaning in what you're doing, then you're on the course of burnout. If you do have meaning, you could be in the flow. So that's the second aspect. The third is mindfulness. Now, mindfulness is just this full and complete engagement in which you're not distracted by social media or the next YouTube thing that's coming up or Netflix. And one might say, well, am I in the flow when I'm Netflix binging, which of course has become very popular these days? And not necessarily, because even though you may be fully engaged, you're fully engaged with the imaginary world that's being created for you in Netflix, which you're not actually engaging in. So there is no mastery, and there may be no real meaning for you in your life. So even though you're engaged, you aren't actually in the flow. Being in the flow requires all 3 of those elements: mastery, mindfulness, and meaning. If you would like to have more keys on how you can be a high performer, stay out of the burnout path, and enjoy a fulfilling and productive life, then I recommend that you download the ebook for free, 7 Secrets That High Performers Use to Manage Their Stress. Thank you so much. That is your Neuro Nugget for today.